Thanks again for coming down and looking at the pastures. What types of problems or risks are there with the parasites, or I guess risk factors involved with parasites?
Well, it is really important to manage your property appropriately. There are a lot of risk factors associated with the horse and with the pasture. Age is definitely an important factor. Foals and geriatric horses are at a higher risk. Even the same parasite load that wouldn't be a problem in a middle-aged horse would be a problem in a foal or an older horse. And then weather is really important. Cold weather gets rid of larvae. Frost can kill the larvae, but unfortunately the eggs can go dormant. So quite often the eggs will remain in the pasture over winter, and you don't have a problem over the winter period, but when the weather warms up, the larvae come out, and when they hit their stage 3, those are the ones that can become infective.
So how can we avoid some of these risks that are involved here?
Well, it's been found that appropriate herd and pasture management is at least as effective as anthelmintic treatment for preventing parasite load in horses. So it's important to manage your property appropriately. Don't have more than one horse on 2 acres of pasture. Rotate your pastures. It's really important to minimize the fecal load in the pasture. Try not to feed horses on the ground, because certainly that's where the parasites are, on the ground. So you don't want them eating where the larvae are present. Try to avoid overgrazing a pasture, because horses tend to eat the grass close to fecal piles when there is nothing else to graze on, and so they're at a higher risk. So spreading the manure is good, but you'll have to rest the pasture for at least 30 days. And the weather needs to be above 85 degrees and dry. It's not effective if you have wet temperatures or a humid climate. Unfortunately, it's not going to kill the parasite load. I know it's a problem in some areas where they don't have the climate for good grass on the pasture. So that's important to keep their feet off the ground, and just try to minimize the number of horses in the paddock. The number of horses who are known shedders as well. So that's why it's important to follow the fecal egg count and isolate those shedders and keep them isolated from the rest of the herd. And if you're in an environment where you can't rest pastures or you don't have dry temperatures, composting the manure before spreading it will be effective. The compost pile needs to be 130 to 150 degrees to actually kill the parasites. So it's important to make sure that it stays at a high temperature. And then you can spread the manure on the pastures if you need to. Some other management practices to help reduce the risk are avoiding feeding in large groups, because the more horses you bring into an area, the more fecal contamination you're going to have in that area. Feeding separately is one of the best options. And also, if you have other species on your farm, it is good practice to rotate your pastures with the species. So if you have sheep or cattle, certainly you can rotate those through the pasture, but it is good to rest the paddocks between having species on them.
Thanks for those ideas.
No problem. I hope this helps.